Hey, Shabbat Shalom Mishpoka. Welcome to another edition of the Haftarah Hashings. This is Haftarah Hashings number 14 called Vayira, meaning he appeared. And this Haftarah portion this week deals with the gathering of the house of Israel, aka Ephraim, or as more commonly referred to, the lost 10 tribes. And it's talking about how God's going to bring a judgment on Pharaoh and upon Egypt, and that there's going to be a 40-year scattering and exile of Judah into Babylon, and when they return from such a captivity, that Egypt will no longer be a superpower ever again, just as it is until this day. And it's talking about the ingathering. The timeline is a little sketchy for some. Some believe that the reuniting of the house of Judah and the house of Israel will happen shortly prior to the millennial reign, or prior to Messiah's return. And there is a prophecy in Jeremiah and other places that there's going to be a last great exodus, that the lost 10 tribes will come out of Assyrian captivity, which now Assyrian captivity is kind of the symbolic term of how Israel, the lost 10 tribes, have been scattered all over the world. There's a documentary put out by A&E called A Quest for the Lost Tribes, and it talks about how a lot of these tribes are being found and are found. This is, just like our Torah portion, God through Moshe and Aaron meet Pharaoh at the river, the source of life for Egypt, and defeats the Egyptian gods, Osiris, Isis, Horus, Hammon, or Hapamon, Tarut, Nu, and Pharaoh himself, who's considered a demigod. And they turned the Nile into blood. However, we see that Pharaoh lost control. He was credited with being the Nile's developer and creator. Thus, the reason for Moses and Aaron to meet Pharaoh in the morning at the river, because he's claiming to be a deity, and he had people think that he made people believe that he had no bodily needs. He didn't have to relieve himself, go to the bathroom or bath or anything, that he was a demigod. So to keep up with this charade, he went to the river early in the morning for the purpose of going to the bathroom and everything. Hey, when you're the king, the Nile is your toilet. So, the dragon in this Haftarah portion represents Pharaoh himself. The fish represents his subjects and his allies. So the 40 years represents the payback for Israel being in the wilderness for 40 years. And it's only a little less than 10% of the total years of bondage Israel was subject to via Egypt. Like Israel in chapter Ezekiel 28, 25 through 26, Egypt will return from their exile, but will never be the same. They'll never be a superpower. And God did this to punish Egypt, so that Israel would stop depending on Egypt for protection and start depending on God, because there was a time during the prophets, during the time Ezekiel prophesied, that Israel was relying on Egypt as a friend and as an ally and kind of as a bodyguard. And so God brought Egypt down, as well as Israel's other allies, to say, hey, you can't depend on the arm of man, you can't depend on other nations, you have to depend on me. So that's kind of, like what it's about. But see, these other nations were taking advantage of Israel, while at the same time saying that they're protecting them. Sort of like the Mafia comes along and comes to a mom and pop shop and say, this is a really nice place you got here. It'd be a real shame if there was, let's say, a fire, or, or somebody came crashing into your place. That would be a shame. You know what? For a little insurance, a little money, we can make sure that those things don't happen to you. So that's kind of what Egypt and the other Israeli allies were doing to Israel. They were just... Israel was in a bondage and in slavery, but of a different sort, and their resources were being gobbled up by Egypt and all these others. So, Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon was chosen to be Egypt's punishers, while at the same time punishing Israel for depending on Egypt, and they went off into captivity. So, this shows that God is in control. God is in control over all. when we see crazy things in this world happen, the NWO, the Illuminati, the secret societies, the economic downturn, having a Muslim president, whatever, God knows, God's in control, and God uses the things that the enemy intends for total destruction and annihilation of his people actually to be the preservation of his people. Because Israel was punished and taken off into Babylonian captivity, they were preserved and protected. Even when Israel was in Egyptian bondage, they were protected because they originally went down there to escape the famine. So, God uses punishments not to break Israel down, but to punish them and to purge them, to purge us of sin and of vices, so that we could be refined and purified like a precious metal such as gold or silver. And once we are refined and the punishment is over, we can come out as pure gold and pure silver, ready for his work, and we're totally dependent on him and not dependent on other people. Just as today people are depending on the welfare system, people are depending on government assistance, people are depending on the World Bank. The economy is going to crash and burn, and we're going to be forced to rely upon God. Just as when Egypt was taken away as Israel's bodyguard, they were forced to rely upon God in Babylonian captivity. So anyway, this is the Haftarah portion for this week. So hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you next time. Shalom and Shavuot Tov Mishpocha. Bye.